Let's head to U.S. election, where a recent leisure poll published by the New York Post reveals that U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris are locked in a close race ahead of Tuesday's election, with each securing 49% support. Only 2% of respondents indicated they would vote for another candidate. Both Trump and Harris are viewed as equally capable of enhancing America's quality of life, each receiving a 44% approval rating. However, Trump leads Harris in terms of the clarity of his economic strategy, with 45% support compared to Harris' 42%. The poll, conducted between 31st October and 3rd November among 950 likely voters, has a margin of error of 3 points. The New York Post, owned by Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation, endorsed Trump for president in late October. And for more on this, we're joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen, who is in Washington, D.C., as well as Lloyd Oku, President Nadeco USA. Let me commence with Afia. What should we expect from tomorrow's election? Okay, let me come to you, Oku. What voting patterns did you observe in key swing states over the past 3 presidential elections?
This 2024 election is an election that hasn't been seen, before, because of the patterns that are being displayed. Ordinarily, the incumbent government is supposed to be way ahead because all the indices are good for a ruling government. The unemployment is low. It's about 4% now. The inflation is down, and poverty is down. The rating for poverty is down. The manufacturing is high. The stock market is good. America is not facing any war outside. So these are things that U.S. Voters always look for. But surprisingly, with all these good things, Trump and Harris are still running neck and neck. So a lot of people are very confused as to what the reason might be. And that's why you see them going to the swing states, major swing states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and all the other states.
Now, Afia, in view of this, what should we expect from tomorrow's election?
Election is something that's causing some real trepidation, I guess, in Washington, D.C. And that is because of fears of safety. Now, all around the city where we have been looking over the course of today, and especially over at lunchtime, the city has gotten quieter. In fact, through the day, there are some cars and some people milling around behind me. But from people we've spoken to, local people, it is usually much busier than it is. And lots of shops are boarding up. People are expecting that there will be trouble. And that is because what happened in January 6, 2021, when you had the insurrection at the National Mall, which was encouraged by Donald Trump not conceding the election. So there are real fears and concerns on the ground here in Washington, D.C. that tomorrow might bring and might mean that there is trouble, especially around Washington, D.C. This is the nation's capital. This is the seat of government, the White House, Capitol Hill, all these kind of monuments that are very, very significant. They are being boarded up. They are being protected. Barriers going up, preventing people from gathering. So real scenes of nervousness here in Washington, D.C.
I'll come back to you in a moment, Afia. Let me get the thoughts of Oku on how demographic shifts impacted elections outcomes in states like Texas, Georgia, as well as Arizona.
I don't think they have states that normally go red. That's Republican. Texas is one of those states. I don't think there's an issue in that state. I think where you have some issues are places like Georgia, which traditionally have been red state, but during the last election turned blue when Biden won. Pennsylvania is another state. Wisconsin, where the vice president, Mr. Walz, is from, is also one of those states. But because of the presence of the vice president coming from there, I think that may be for the Democrats. But other than that, I don't think that states that traditionally go blue will now go red. For instance, Texas. That Texas is not going to change. Texas has pretty much been a red state. California, for instance, where the vice president comes from, is expected to continue to be won by the Democrats.
Now, I'm talking about states. Afia, what can you tell us about the importance of swing states? Afia, did you get my question?
The swing states really make up the path to victory. The most important swing state is Pennsylvania, that has 19 electoral college votes. Now you need 270 electoral college votes to win the election, and a lot of those will be garnered from those swing states. That's the likes of Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania. Like I said, these are the states that are fundamentally important in the Sun Belt and the Rust Belt to the Democrats and to the Republicans. Now, they have been working both very, very hard on both sides to try and flip them either blue or red. Like I say, Pennsylvania, a huge battleground state. We're seeing both sides of the campaign, Democrats and Republicans campaigning there today. It's almost impossible to win the election without winning Pennsylvania with its 19 electoral college votes. So the swing states are really where it's at. You know, the other kind of 43 states are pretty much decided. Some are very blue, like California. Some are very red, like some of the states down in the south. And we know that they will go one way or the other. But the 7 swing states with the most electoral college votes are the ones that are the most important. And they are the ones that will decide the result of the election.
Let me get the thoughts of Mr. Oko regarding what role early voting as well as mail-in ballots play in shaping final results of recent U.S. elections.
The early voting has been, the turnout has been very good, and that's usually good for the incumbent administration. So in most of the states that are seen as battleground states, the turnout in those states have been, very, very good, and people, believe that the reason is simply that people see this election as being one of the most competitive elections in recent times, and so they've made sure that they turn out their supporters, very early.
Afia, talk to us about how social media influenced voter sentiment as well as behavior compared to traditional media.
Social media has played a huge part in this election, probably more so than any other, for so many various reasons. You have Donald Trump that now has his own social media network, Truth Social, where he can say pretty much anything that he wants. We have Elon Musk now in charge of what was formerly Twitter and what is now X. And, he has definitely taken away some of the controls that were certainly on social media and allowed people to, again, voice whatever they want. And there has been, it's been a real battleground of messages put out on social media, not just by both sides of the campaign, but by voters. But you also have the problem of false information. A lot of that has been spread on social media as well. So it really has played a huge part. And if we look at, influential people who are using social media to say that they are supporting one campaign or the other, they put that out to their followers. And if you think of of someone like Jennifer Lopez, who has millions of followers and is supporting Kamala Harris. And if you think of Hulk Hogan, who also has millions of followers and is supporting Donald Trump, it's a way of them influencing the election, throwing their weight behind these campaigns, and then their supporters will do so also. So social media really has played a very important and a very crucial role in this election, and I would say more so than any other.
Afia, let me get your thoughts regarding final day, the D-Day for the election, polling day tomorrow for the U.S. elections. What are your expectations?
I mean, for tomorrow, we are expecting it to be very quiet in Washington, D.C., except around polling stations where people will be casting their final votes. Remember, about 90 million early votes have already been cast. That is well more than half. But we are expecting polling stations to be busy all across the country for people to cast their final votes. And I think it is going to be, I mean, we know that it is the most tightly fought election in modern history. It feels like a real moment in time. It's massively historic because you are either going to elect the first convicted felon into the White House or you're going to elect the first female president. So either way, we are on the precipice of a hugely, hugely historic election.
How about you, Mr. Oku? What are your final thoughts in view of the polling day for the U.S. election?
Well, tomorrow is definitely going to be the day that we've been waiting for. There's something that is usually not said because it's politically incorrect to say it. With all the baggage that Trump has, with all his convictions, with all his bankruptcies, with all his issues with women, people quite do not understand why he is still running neck to neck with the vice president. Now, normally, in a normal situation, any politician that has the type of baggage, that says the type of things that Trump says, that does the type of things that Trump has done in the past, would completely be out of the race. But in this case, he's not. He's still in the race, running neck to neck. So what people are saying behind the scenes and not saying publicly, because it's politically incorrect to say so, is that racism is driving this election, very much. A lot of people say that the Make America Great Again is actually Make America White Again. They're saying that the white supremacists are the ones driving the rural area mobilization and stuff like that. So if you look at it, it makes a lot of sense. But people are not saying it because, it's not something that is very attractive to say.
And
but
that's a fine place to leave it. Many thanks indeed. That's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much, President Nadeco USA, and that's Lloyd Oku, as well as our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Many thanks to both of you.
Thank you for having me.
Let's also tell you that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have battled across swing states this weekend, urging voters to decide in one of the most intense U.S. elections in modern history. Harris has encouraged Americans to turn the page on Trump's divisive politics, while Trump continues his push for a political comeback. With less than 24 hours until Election Day, close to 100 million early ballots have been cast, with more expected before poll closes. Both candidates held rallies in North Carolina, while Harris addressed supporters in Georgia and Trump made additional stops in Virginia. Harris continued her campaign in Michigan, while Trump plans rallies in Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. And for more on this, we're joined by Dr. Uche Igwe, visiting fellow, Freeron's Laoji Institute for Africa, LSE, Nairobi, Kenya. Let me ask you regarding trends you have seen emerged regarding voter alignment with economic, healthcare, as well as social justice issues.
I think that the general trend about economic issues tend to favor the Democrats. And But then if you look at it, like the other analysts said in the past, those who are following Trump do follow him, despite the fact that some of the issues that he's pushing do not necessarily align towards economic issues. I think that race, like someone said earlier, is playing an important role, implicitly or explicitly. And you also see immigration also playing another role. Those who support Trump are sort of inclined to believe that his tough stance on immigration will be helpful in restoring jobs and securing the economy further in the United States. So that's the way it looks. So strictly speaking, I think that the Democrats, the views of the vice president align more, but then those who follow Trump still follow him anyway.
We've seen, a lot of polling data in the build-up to this election tomorrow. How do you assess the accuracy as well as the impact of all of this polling data in recent election, given fluctuating predictions?
Well, the predictions still, the latest ones we saw, still put them neck to neck with Kamala Harris, vice president, leading very slightly with like a few points, 2 points in some states. But in the past, if we're going to rely on data, you would know that Trump has surprised many people in the past. It has also not, the outcome when Trump is involved does not necessarily align with what the polls say. But there's something that is going to be very surprising, in my view, in the outcome of this election. I think that the establishment, for want of a better way to describe it, those who think that Donald Trump's presidency would go against whatever America represents, especially if you begin to look at his latest convictions and all the controversies around him. So I see a situation where even though those things do not necessarily come out to shape the polls, they may actually shape the elections. And, the way it's looking, it will most likely, in my view, with a very slight margin, go to the Democrats. Indeed, if you ask me, it will be consistent with what the pollings and the polls have said in the last few days, that the Democrats will have it with a narrow margin.
Let's talk for a moment about mobilization efforts, so far. Do you see that, influence on grassroots mobilization efforts, on voter turnout, as well as election results?
Yeah, definitely mobilization will be an issue. The Democrats, again, have an edge in terms of funding and fundraising. Since the President, Joe Biden, withdrew from the race, there has been a surge in the popularity of the vice president. There's also been a surge in the amount of money she raised, her campaign raised during the period. So all of these will play an important role in shaping, the outcome. So yes, these things will be important. And again, if you're going to look strictly as these indicators, they still favor the Democrats.
Well, thank you so much indeed for your thoughts on the news. Dr. Uche Igwe. Away from U.S. election, locals in Spain have expressed outrage towards their leaders following devastating floods in Valencia region, which have claimed at least 217 lives. King Felipe, Queen Letizia, and Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez face a hostile crowd in Paiporta on Sunday. The town, hardest hit by disasters, saw more than 70 people lose their lives last Tuesday. As the royal family and Prime Minister paid visits to a crisis center in the area, they were met with mudslinging and insult. Extra security guards quickly stepped in to keep the angry crowd at distance, with chants of murderers directed at the royals and Prime Minister. However, King Felipe later acknowledged the public's frustration, while Prime Minister Sanchez condemned the violence but conveyed his sympathy for the victims. Meanwhile, Spain's meteorological agency has issued a red alert for more rain in the region. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba.